Baba Booey.
You know, it's kind of crazy how few video essays there are of Parks and Rec.
I mean, if you look up The Office, then you'll scroll through pages and pages of content. In fact, even my very first video on YouTube was about The Office. But there's so many of them that there's even a fake troll video about how it's actually a really bad show. And I don't even want to know the amount of people that disliked that video before watching it. Oh, shoot, I did too. Wait, cut the cameras.
Although, I'm assuming it's about the same as a future project I want to do. Too soon.
However, now, I've been seeing more and more people on the internet say how it's actually overrated and boring.
Which I don't get at all.
But it is kind of interesting to see how much overexposure can somewhat ruin a show's overall reputation. And because The Office soaked up so much overexposure, it left a similar little show slide right by without getting much hate at all, and honestly barely getting the recognition it deserves. Parks and Recreation is a mockumentary comedy which ran for 7 seasons. Written by Dwight's cousin Mose apparently, it dealt with a similar idea from The Office.
And that was, well, an Office.
However, even with The Office deemed overrated, Parks and Rec is still generally considered the lesser of the two shows. And I kind of disagree.
I think.
This is going to sound really weird, but if I had to pick a show to watch, I would choose The Office, simply because Michael G. Scott is one of the funniest characters ever, and Steve Carell's deliveries are just legendary.
However, if I had to tell you which one is better overall, then I'd have to go with Parks and Rec.
The Office certainly has some of the highest highs, but also the lowest lows. While Parks and Rec perfected the length at 7 seasons, it didn't drag on, which made it consistent all the way through. And also, while I think The Office is funnier, the thing Parks and Rec did better was having an actual ensemble cast, instead of truly focusing on only about 5 of them. In fact, even in the first season, The Office literally had extras that we've never seen again.
Like, seriously, who are these people?
But anyway, in finding the best episode out of the bunch, this was the main thing I had to take into consideration, which was what episode used the ensemble cast the best. And after a bunch of research, and by research I mean just rewatching a bunch of my favorite episodes, especially before it gets removed on Netflix, which come on, what the heck Netflix, I stumbled upon the perfect and best episode of the series.
Which is none other than Season 4, Episode 6, End of the World.
Now, okay, hold up. Just because this is the best episode doesn't mean it's the funniest or even my personal favorite. That award would have to go to The Fight or something like that.
But in terms of sole objectiveness, End of the World is Parks and Rec's magnum opus.
First off, the title alone. For a show being about workers in a workplace, this title sounds pretty extreme. Like something off of Stranger Things.
But here, it totally works.
Because Parks and Rec has always been slightly more cartoony than The Office.
And that can either be taken as a criticism or a compliment, but here, I think it's a compliment.
Parks and Rec is just cartoony enough where it doesn't feel bizarre or if it's trying too hard.
Unlike whatever those last few seasons of The Office were.
But this show is allowed to be more cartoony because it's literally a fictional town. Whereas The Office is going more for a small-scale, realistic, relatable comedy, which was great in its own right. Parks and Rec's Pawnee has a huge advantage over Scranton because Pawnee is its own character.
In fact, I would go as far as to say that it is the main character.
All the history between Eagleton, the fact that it's like one of the most obese towns in America, and all the returning side characters like Joan Calamezzo, Perd Hapley, Tammy 2, and even that one dude who always wants to start chants in the public forums, just to name a few. All of this allows the show to tackle really any idea at once, because there's always a side character somewhere out there in this world that can counter with our main characters.
However, in The Office, they really had to stay in, well, The Office.
On the few occasions they do leave, though, they really had to be careful and discreet and make sure that they didn't break the narrative and the sense of immersion. Outside of a few shots where they literally just gave up and showed mountains.
In Scranton.
But with Pawnee, we can use the wacky idea of the end of the world. So the episode starts out with a cultist coming to Leslie and informing her about the end of the world.
Now, if you didn't know that this was a comedy, that description alone would be pretty freaky.
However, since this is a comedy, they can make fun of it and keep the stakes low. Now, along with that, there's also 2 other subplots, all of them having to do with the same idea, which again really helps keep all the characters feel together, even if they aren't actually. Alongside the big cult ritual in the park, we have Tom and John Raffio, aka Sonic the Hedgehog, aka somehow one of the best movies to come out of 2020 because of quarantine, which really should be a good visual metaphor for this mess of a year.
But anyway,
they're using all of their money left on a giant party at their failed entertainment company, as well as April and the now superstar Chris Pratt character, doing every dumb thing on their bucket list. They're using all these characters' strengths to the best of their ability, which is how dumb yet innocent they really are. And overall, how much we actually admire and envy them living their life to the fullest. But I'll get to that more later. Okay, moving on. So now we come across the main conflict, where Leslie overreacts about something really small.
Which is literally perfect for her character.
I mean, her whole character is always about overachieving and being a workaholic, and she never really fully understands the consequences of her actions. So the reporter, Shauna Mulway, tweets, yet another side reoccurring character in Pawnee starts to seem attracted to Ben, Leslie's kinda maybe sorta lover.
kinda.
And of course, she automatically goes to the worst possible scenario in her head. And Amy Poehler's acting is just incredible here. I mean, Michael Scott is on a completely different level, and in my opinion, there will never be a better character in comedy. But Poehler really does bring so much life into Leslie Knope. She's honestly so iconic that she's like the Superman of politics.
And yes, it is as boring as that sounds, but that's what makes it so funny.
Anyway, she now feels that the world is ending and wants to stop this relationship from continuing. Also, another character has a role in this episode which is perfect for her, none other than
Perkins,
who is really Leslie's voice of reason that she never listens to. However, I'll be honest, she's really my least favorite character.
At least the most uninteresting.
I mean, what are her character traits? Leslie's friend? Girl? In fact, I'm starting to understand why Ron never knows her name. But it really just feels like they don't know what to do with her, which isn't the actress's fault. Or maybe this mockumentary style just doesn't work for her.
Which is ironic, because she literally has the most experience.
Although, I will give her credit, at least she doesn't drag the show like that one random dude in the first 2 seasons.
Yes, I'm almost willing to bet money you forgot he existed.
Alongside this storyline, we continue to see April and Starla just living their life to the fullest, including holding $1,000 worth of cash, eating the world's greatest grilled cheese sandwich, and the hilarious action movie skit with Jerry, Larry, Terry, Gary, Barry, Gingrich. And yeah, even though Donna and I don't want to say all that again, don't have much screen time, the few times that they do, it's really funny. But I can't blame them, because this was really before they were considered main characters, and weren't even showcased in the intro. Tom and Sonic continue vibing at their party, which is just hilarious seeing the amount of money that they spend on it, including a literal tiger. But Poehler keeps up her energy to try and divert Ben. And the more and more she lies and doesn't think about the consequences of her actions, the funnier it gets. To the point where she tries to pass off that
This gas station was owned by Mick Jagger.
However, of course, Ben catches on to what she's doing and has to give her an honest reality check. And in an even greater reality check, Leslie goes to talk with Ron. Hold on, let me just get my thumbnail real quick. There we go. Okay.
Now, here's a really interesting aspect about this show, which is Ron and Leslie's relationship.
First off though, yeah, I think Ron is my favorite character.
I think.
I don't know, the order has changed even more than the dislikes I'm anticipating on my future BVS video. However, I really do think Ron deserves the #1 spot. But I guess it's a compliment for this show if I can't really pick one favorite from the ensemble cast.
Because if this was The Office, then I'd pick Michael Scott in a heartbeat.
But here, Ron is my favorite because of just how done he is. The advice he gives is both funny, yet powerful. And the best aspect about him is that he works a government job, yet hates the government. Which is the exact opposite of Leslie Knope.
However, also very similar.
If you think about it, Ron and Leslie really have that SpongeBob Squidward dynamic, and that they are the heart of the show. Anytime it needs an emotional connection, this is usually the go-to. And I say SpongeBob Squidward because both sets of characters work the exact same job, yet have completely different viewpoints of it. One is optimistic, and the other is, well, not that. And because of their opposites, this allows a really unique dynamic between them. Ron, on occasion, is able to talk sense into Leslie, while Leslie, on a very little occasion, is able to ignite Ron's joy about life and show him how to have fun.
And in this episode, the former is what happens.
With Leslie questioning Ron what he would do if the world were to end, he gives her an honest answer, but follows up with straight up telling her that the world is not ending, and that the sun will still rise, and that she'll have to deal with all the exact same problems she has now.
And really, this is one of the few times that she has been given that reality check.
Which makes the perfect arc, as she's still same old Leslie, yet just a little more cautious and aware of her actions. Now, with the main characters arc tied up, we have to finish up all the other subplots, which ends with a beautiful song over April and the Jurassic World guy living their life to the fullest and driving all the way to the Grand Canyon.
And this scene right here encapsulates the whole idea of Parks and Rec.
Finding a way to make the most out of life while working a mundane job.
And, in the words of, well, my least favorite character,
I think the danger in believing in reincarnation is that you spend so much time trying to figure out what you're going to be in the next lifetime that you forget to enjoy the one you're in now.
This episode portrays everything about Parks and Rec at its finest. From the hilarious over-the-topness, to the low yet meaningful stakes, to the heartfelt messages, and to ending it all in one emotional peak. Literally. Which is why even though this episode may not be the funniest, it's definitely the best. Fully capable of holding the title as Parks and Rec's Magnum Opus.
And of course we also get this iconic gem.
Where's all the faces? Like the presidents.
Hold up.
Okay, yeah, I should do some homework. I promise next week that all my other iconic characters will make an appearance again.
Like me?
What the?